How are you?
I'm good. How about you?
What?
I say it just seems like this month has been crazy.
It is, yeah. I feel like December and January are always crazy. I saw that you sent me something.
There's so many countless episodes or incidents that PETA does that nobody is aware of, and it really irritates the hell out of me that they get by with it, to be honest with you. Because then other people that they go after can't do anything, and then they're still after you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, yeah. And so that was the reason that we wanted to start this new thing because I feel like the majority of our podcasts do become about PETA or animal rights in some way.
Right, I
And
agree.
so there's always information and news about that stuff going on. And PETA's
Exactly.
always doing something.
They are. And, I think the more public awareness, because it's so sparse and it's so spread out there, that people don't piece it together and actually see like a full fledged picture of PETA. So people don't get on the bandwagon to think they're not so nice organization. And I'm hoping if we can just piece every time we see something and we discuss it, that we can open up somebody else's eyes and realization that PETA needs to really be shut down, truthfully.
Yeah, and nobody should be supporting him.
No, no. I mean, there's so many other good organizations that if they want to support them, then that's what they need to do. Just like even when um I'm not I'm not a big fan of globally federated sanctuaries because basically they're PETA approved, so they're PETA driven. And I'm not for anybody that's got the same philosophies that PETA does or that they're willing to take blood money from PETA. That really irritates me. But there is
Well,
other totally different private sanctuaries that have good qualities, good standards, good everything that could actually use the money so that they could take more animals and that they're not in a globally federated sanctuary. So, there's a lot of organizations that are good organizations like no kill shelters and that type stuff that are so small that could benefit from even the smallest amount of donations so that they can go ahead and continue a good philosophy and try to provide outreach to dogs and cats and animals of that nature, domestic animals that need homes instead of killing them just automatically.
yeah, did you look at the thing that I sent you? It was in like an old post with a lot of links to things that PETA has done through the years.
Yes, I did. I did extensively. And none of it surprises me, and some of it I was aware of and some of it I didn't even have a clue about. And I thought I pretty much researched PETA as much as I can because of my feelings toward them. But truthfully, it's really sad to me that everybody isn't aware of that and that they keep donating and these stars are going on there promoting them and just like you said, they go after like Leonardo DiCaprio because he's not supportive of PETA's agendas, and they literally try to desecrate him or like taunt him into doing it. So like they're bullying him, and that's really sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when someone doesn't agree with them, they just bully them, hoping that eventually they'll just take everything from them and they'll agree with them.
Yeah, or that they have no choice and they'll be a nobody, so they won't be somebody that stands negatively toward PETA. Yeah, I mean, they really truly are, to me, almost like a dictatorship. They're literally trying to take over us and run us, and we be their sheep, and that's disgusting to me.
And the thing that is bothersome about it to me is that not only do they have all this power and like they bully people and use all this money, but people are donating this money because they believe that they're donating to help animals and support animal welfare, and that's not what they're using it for, and that's not what
No,
they're doing.
no, it's a
Like
big
this
deception. Yeah,
this document, like I can't even believe most of this.
I know. I know it's sick. It's a real sick trend. And it's almost became a way of life for those people that are PETA supporters. So it's almost like a cult, to be honest with you. It's beyond just being a not for profit organization for the ethical treatment of animals.
Yes, yeah, like we were talking before, It's actually devastating that there are primates in laboratories being treated how they are. And why is PETA not focused on that? Like, why is all the money not focused on that, for instance? Why is it focused on a docu-series or making your well-treated animals not be pets? Like, why is it not focused on actually being animals being harmed?
And even though, and why don't they focus on fundraisers for that instead of like the gays with the chicken between them in their bed because they're eating chicken?
I want to read through this list and then put the articles next to it, like when I
Okay,
edit this.
sure,
It
sure.
says, do you remember when PETA stole people's pets off their porches and euthanized them? And that they kill 90% of the animals, including healthy and adoptable puppies and kittens that they take in, stating that they could be a no-kill shelter immediately, but they wouldn't do as much work. That they advocated killing all pit bulls just because they're pit bulls.
Mm-hmm.
That they handed out these comics to children when there were no adults looking, and they're horrible comics that I'll put up so you can see them. They made a porn site and filled it with videos of animal abuse and claimed cats should be vegetarian.
Oh, jeez.
They lied about sheep shearing, got caught, and then defended the lie, even though they admitted the sheep in their picture wasn't even real.
Imagine that.
They claimed that a person who exposed them was manipulating the facts. Of course, they would do that.
Of course, of course.
Mm-hmm. They spread false information about milk causing autism based on outdated information.
Yep, not surprised.
They used Holocaust imagery to compare the meat industry to concentration camps. Used a young man's brutal death as a way to say it's awful, but it happens to animals every day.
Wow. Wow.
They dressed up in KKK robes and tested outside the Westminster Dog Show to protest breeding or purebred dogs.
Yep, I'm not surprised. They don't care what happens to the animal. They just care about furthering their agenda and making it look like people are incompetent and all that other stuff. They do not believe in that stuff. And so to further their agenda, they don't care how many animals they hurt doing so.
No, that's the thing, is they don't care how many animals they hurt in furthering their agenda, or people as well. And
No,
so,
absolutely.
no, and remember the White Coat Project you mentioned before, where they said
Hmm.
PETA had not fought lab monkeys at all to protect
Yep,
them at all. Like it appears as though they're focused on it, and they really just want people to follow their agenda in being vegan. Um,
absolutely.
It says they offered to pay a water bill for the poorest neighborhood in Detroit if only they all went vegan for a month.
I know. That's what I'm saying. But that's supposed to be for the ethical treatment of animals. I mean, that's what I said. Who actually does their audits and who actually looks into their not-for-profit status and how they spend their money? Because there is regulations on that. And
Yes.
for them to try to shut down other animal not-for-profits by saying that they misappropriated their funds, well, who's regulating PETA? Who's regulating them?
Are people donating so that they can make cool advertisements and like public art?
And pay X amount of dollars to CEOs and to attorneys to be on staff for them? Come on. How does that help an animal?
It says they had two of their workers accept perfectly healthy animals from an animal hospital with the implication they would give them good homes. Clarified that these animals were all healthy and then euthanized them in the back of a van before dumping their dead bodies behind a grocery store.
I have no doubt because they do that all the time. All the time. They'll gather up neighborhood dogs and stuff and euthanize them so they don't have to be on their statistics at the end of the year of how many they've killed. That's been noted so many times. I mean, you can read article after article about that. So it's ridiculous. That's why I said, are they benefiting the world? Where are they benefiting the animal world in any shape or fashion? And how dare they bash anybody that actually goes out every single solitary day and takes care of those animals?
Yes. And they get off without any issues because they have so much money to pay the best lawyers and have the best legal team.
Yep, and they know how to circumvent things so that it, like you said, they'll use that it was their staff member, it was somebody else's problem, but PETA, although we all know they were directed by PETA to fulfill those obligations that they did, but then now they can fire them and they can look like shame on them, and they probably compensate those people behind scenes like no tomorrow to get
Mm-hmm.
to get their agendas completed. That's why I said people need to look per dollar where that money goes. And if they can buy into Chewy and Ralph Lauren and Facebook and all these entities to build their empire, well, that should not be acceptable too, because that money, I guess they're going to say that that money generates more money so they can help. But the fact of it is ultimately at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how they acquire their money. They're not helping. They're
But
not.
if they spent those millions, billions of dollars on actually helping the animals that they claim to care about, do you know how much good that would do? That would do a lot of good.
A lot of good opening shelters across the United States, or even supporting shelters to provide for those, dogs and cats that are out on the streets and that type of stuff, to help spay and neuter camps so that, that we're not having an influx of more kittens and more puppies, that are unwanted. There's so the poor dogs and cats that are being tied up and chained and not getting water and that type of stuff in the wintertime. And now I'm beginning to really see Eric Good being hanging in there too. So it's just sad that all of these entities are, basically PETA, in PETA's pockets or PETA's beds, whichever way you'd like to use it. And that they are literally trying to manipulate how they feel about something and further their agendas. But I do want people to be aware that there's so many not just organizations but other people working with PETA that because PETA pays them for campaigns or pays them for things, they'll manipulate them into doing other things that PETA really can't say they're paying them for, but they really are, because that's an understanding when they accept that they have to do certain things to get that campaign and collect that money. And one of them is Alan Cummings. I mean, he's done so many
Mm-hmm.
campaigns for PETA, so then they can get him to act like he's so in love with Tonka and that he loved Tonka and that he's such a great fan of Tonka. But again, if you look at when Buddy was filmed versus when he actually even knew where Tonka was, there was many years, like 20 plus years that went by. And if he gave two craps about about Tonka, he would have already checked in on him and known, and he could have stood up for himself and tried to help the situation if he thought Tonka was in a bad situation. So it's just bogus stuff. If he never would have came forward if it wasn't for them green dollars that PETA offered him.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, like we were saying, we think that PETA was behind the documentary in general and getting
Hmm.
the whistleblower to suddenly change her mind and start talking about you.
Well, to be quite honest with you, I didn't want to believe that because, I have a fond relationship with Jeremy McBride. But
Mhm.
as of late, say like the last month or so, there's been some approaches and some things that have happened that I know 100% fact, and I have text to back it up, where definitely they are in bed with PETA 100%. So it's really sad. It really is, and it really devastated. It devastated me, to be honest with you, because then people that you think you can trust, Dwayne Cunningham had already disappointed me, and now all the rest of the stuff. But it's going to come to light. It will all come to light in a courtroom. So
Oh,
yeah.
good.
Yep.
Yeah, because if anything, they lied to you to get you to do the documentary in the first place. And
They have to be responsible for their actions, and if their docuseries causes me harm, then there's other, like, punitive damages and other things that you can
Mhm.
seek outside of
And
just because of the
pain and
docuseries.
suffering.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. And that's what I'm focused on. I'm totally focused on it, and so there's like a story 2 coming up, and I'm seriously over being manipulated and being abused, and again, just like the stuff with the courts right now, you know. I'm being accountable for stuff, but then everybody else has done stuff. And as of late, the federal court judge that has always been over this case took herself off,
Yeah.
because she says she's not fit to make sound decisions. She's not been fit all around, and nobody's called that out. And I'm glad she has common sense to realize and I know why she did it. It's because she's wanting, ultimately, at the end of the day, her ends to justify the means, kind of like what Peta said with adding me to Connie's lawsuit. But I hope and hope and hope that there's some repercussions for that, because there was several motions she never ruled for on that I put in personally. And I just feel like that, truthfully, I never should have been added to that lawsuit to begin with. They used an ADA case to justify their means to get me added, because you have to do case citations in federal courts, which I don't know if most people realize that, but they cited a case that was an ADA case, which has nothing to do with animal welfare cases or ESA cases. And I never should have been added to begin with, but she denied it twice, but the third time she allowed PETA to admit me. But truthfully, an ESA lawsuit is an ESA lawsuit, and there's no gray areas to that. And they never had me on any ESA charges, and never has there ever been any ESA charges brought up. So with that said, I never should have been in that lawsuit, and none of this should have taken place. And so I'm getting to the point to where I want my story, and I've said this the whole time I've been willing to do interviews and stuff. I want my true story to be told, and I want vindication or whatever for what they've done to me. And I really, really am just like, I've gotten my head clear, and I'm super excited that I'm ready to just roll. And I'm not angry, because people can say you're doing it out of anger. I'm not angry. I've already gone through the stages of grief. I've already lost Honka. It's been 2.5 going on 3 years. So it's not fresh new stuff. It's just stuff that needs to be done, because if I'm going to be accountable, then everybody else needs to be. And the judge never allowed them to be. Just like she knew they filmed
Mhm.
the taking of the chimps, which she had a court order in place saying that that should never have taken place. But guess what? They got by with it. They even showed themselves on the docuseries putting cameras in Connie's facility.
Yeah.
So they did it themselves. We told them that we had a court order saying not. They knew it implicitly that they should not be doing that, that they were going against a court order, which is contempt, which is what she's trying to do with me having criminal attempt. They've done the same thing, but how come none of that has came to light, and how come they're not being accountable? That's just one incident, but the other incident is when they were here, and they showed the little last clip of me crying and me shutting down the computer. There was a lot more to that scene. They filmed that whole entire hour and a half, whatever it was, court proceedings, but they didn't show that because that would incriminate themselves. They just showed the last part where it looked like I was this crazy woman just crying, and that I
Mhm.
had so much theatrical stuff. They didn't realize the push that they had behind it, where PETA was browbeating me. Jerry Goodman was browbeating me, and that's why I said what I said when I thought my microphone was off, and the stenographer reminded me that the thing was on, and I called him whatever I called him, whatever name, because with Jared Goodman, I've called him so much I can't remember that day exactly what my comment was, but nonetheless, she did say, Miss Haddix, I want to remind you your microphone's still on. So that was part of the proceedings, and we took a recess. So with that said, they could take that stuff out because that was headlines, or it made the show more interesting, but they
Hmm.
can't show the whole story. And I'm tired of the whole story not being told, because it made me look horrible. And just like showing the little piece of my enclosure and not showing the whole enclosure, and not saying that Tonka came out with me when nobody else was around, and that
Yeah.
he had a lot more space than that, and that that also too, in the same token, that
Hmm.
USDA's regulations for caging is way less than mine, and that my USDA was taken down there to see that enclosure once I mean, it was when Tonka had already been gone and stuff, and he said that was more than adequate for the USDA. So instead of making me look like this crazy shanty lady that keeps a chimp in a basement, and it was dark and dingy and that type stuff, no, they need to focus on the truth. And then if somebody wants to judge, that action, not only that, do they need to realize that was not Tonka's supposed to be place to go to, but because they
A
kept.
night cage, like you said, and it's the same exact size as the chimp sanctuary uses for multiple chimps at night.
Yes, yes,
But they
yes.
make it look like you're just keeping this massive animal in this tiny little place, and that's where he's going to spend the rest of his life, and that's just not true.
No,
The
that was
same with
that.
the McDonald's, that they bought McDonald's and beer, you said, for the animals. Like,
Right. And it was their money that bought every one of those Happy Meals on that whole docu-series. I never spent one penny on them. So guess what? I'm not the one that fed them that stuff. I'm not saying that we didn't have parties and that we didn't have certain times that they got special treats, but it surely was not a daily thing. And again, I have an account with Proffers, and I could easily pull up that documentation, because I could go down there and ask them, or ask them to email me what I spent that year purchasing food for them, and it was fresh produce. So, I mean, people can
and
think.
it showed you preparing fresh produce in the documentary, but it was just like, what, less than a minute. It was like 30 seconds where they showed all the produce.
And they even helped me carry in the stuff, and they filmed that. So they could have showed a lot more to where I actually did care for them. And if you look at my buckets versus Save the Chimps' buckets, where they have a chef specifically for those chimps, not one single solitary thing different. So that's what I'm saying. And if you look at Save the Chimps, where they say they give the chimps blankets and stuff for comfort, we did the same thing, but we were shouted, they shouted out to us that we shouldn't be doing that, that they should live in a natural habitat. That's
Hmm.
whole what center Save the Chimps focuses around. They get to be natural, but blankets are not natural. Not only that, but toys and Christmas gifts and throwing parties is not natural in a chimp's environment. So if they want to get a technical, I would love to do, and in fact, now I really would love to challenge. This may be a challenge for them, for any one of those administrators from those facilities that have bashed me, especially for Chimp Crazy. Let's do a forum. Let's do a forum. Get a PETA representative. Let's get one of their representatives, and let's bring it on, because I'm at this point, like I said, I'm ready to bring it on. And like I said, we can have a supposed a constructive forum, so that we can show how are they any different, because I would like for them to explain to me, how are they any different. Most of them are not educated any more than I am.
It's a great
There you go.
idea to have them on here and ask them those questions, because I'm very curious about the responses to all of this, because with all of the evidence that you've showed me and that I've seen myself, it doesn't make sense to me.
No. And that's what I tell everybody. Don't take my word for it. Go to the documents that are on the federal court website, and go look at the stuff. Go look at the stuff. I mean, because I'm to the point to where anymore, and I don't know if it's just because I've gotten to the point I'm fed up with stuff. I'm fed up with PETA keep hounding me. I'm fed up with like having to live with them, like constantly trying to do everything to desecrate me. But I mean, I'm ready to call it it out. If people really feel that way and they've got enough guts and enough evidence, let's see it. Bring it out here. Bring it to the table instead of talking and making statements at
Mhm.
conventions where other people are not invited to go. Let's do it, because I'm certainly willing to. And guess what? It is what it is. So, and people can figure it out for themselves. As Eric Good told me and Jeremy McBride told me multiple times, that the docuseries was going to be about letting people have conversation and to be able to decide for themselves. And that's what I want this forum
Mhm.
to be, is for people to actually get to see it and get to experience it and get the feeling from all sides, and it all be presented at the same time, instead of article here, a piece here, and somebody for this one and how they write it. No, I don't want anything written. I don't want anything edited. I want it to be just there. That's it. No edits, no nothing. Just
Yeah,
facts.
I think that's a great idea, and that's why we're going to be having all the evidence in this episode, and I think we should definitely invite those people to be a part of it.
I totally agree, sis. I really do. And like I said, I really want to see this podcast really show not just the PETA side of things, the sanctuaries, the globally federated sanctuaries, how they have the, because I started looking up their missions and their mission statements and their stuff, because they supposedly don't believe in hands-on. That's their, they feel like they ought to be natural, that they shouldn't be in people's homes and stuff, and that they shouldn't be in Hollywood. But guess what? Patty Reagan from Center for Great Apes had a special needs chimp, and when she didn't have a caretaker for it, she used to take it to her office and keep it entertained for the day. So how is that not hands on? I mean,
Mhm.
and she can say, well, it's because I didn't have somebody to watch it or whatever. Go to his enclosure, sit there all day and watch it there. I mean,
Yeah, because that's natural. That's a natural environment, and that's what should be done if that's what they're saying is supposed to be done.
exactly. Don't and then I read where somebody, and I won't say who, because the reason why is because then it will get me stirred up on something else. But they were saying that the sanctuary is a great place, which I'm not arguing with that. If there was any sanctuary that I believed in, that's globally federated, would be Center for Great Apes. But they say their philosophy is that they take in pet chimps and ex movie chimps and stuff, and they're not supposed to have hands on, but they show that they do. They even talk about how they try to simulate that. And it's like, really? Then why didn't you just leave them where they were to begin with? If you're going to simulate the same environment for those kids, why are you even messing with them? Why are you taking them?
Money.
It, that's right, because guess what? I'd like to show where every one of those animals came from, see that they were being paid for by their own owners, and seeing that they just want them for donation purposes.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, I think that's a great amount of information for the first episode.
Good.
And
I'm full of it today. But also too, there's a lot of stuff going on, like the fires in California. Pray for the wildlife there and for the people that's losing their houses and that type
Mhm.
stuff. And we're not living in a society these days and times that's fair. And there's
No,
nothing just. There's nothing just
yeah,
at all.
it's
Nothing.
all unequal. And yeah, it's really sad that I feel like it's coming to light more and more
And it
because
needs
people are
to.
talking about it.
Yeah, it needs to, because you know what? At the end of the day, I don't care if you are a doctor. I don't care if you're a postman. I don't care if you're a waitress. I don't care what you are. Every person is valued or should be valued. And there's not one any better than the other. And we put our pants on or
Yeah.
our dress on the same way every morning. So guess what? We are not any better than one. And yes, some people have better morals. Some people have better standards. I'm not disagreeing with that, but I have news for you. A lot of the people that are highly regarded have no morals and no standards.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. And it's all hidden. And when they do, immoral things or illegal things, it's all hidden or covered up because they have a lot
Or
of
they have
money.
a dad that can pardon them. So,
Hmm. Yeah.
it just is what
And
it
so
is.
I think we're people for the ethical treatment of animals and humans, like the actual ethical treatment.
And that's true. That's true. And that's what I say. Even prisoners, there's so much reform that needs to be done anymore. And I'm not even sure. I mean, yes, animals are important to me, as you know. So that's why we kind of dwell on that because it's a part of my
Hmm.
life. But I also feel a lot of regards for a lot of the things that's going on, even in the schools, the bullying, the even social media, how evil it can be, but how necessary it is in the same token. There's so much
Hmm.
stuff that we could debate on both sides that it's not even funny. It really isn't.
No, but
Okay.
I
Well,
think we
no
got
problem.
a
Okay.
lot of
Behave
good
yourself.
stuff today.
I'm glad we had fun.
Me too.